Welcome back to Elite Sports Talk. This is episode 16, and I gotta say, the playoffs so far have been pretty great. Some things have gone exactly how we thought. Other things, maybe not so much. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff regarding NBA, NHL, NFL. Victor Wembanyama is now in concussion protocol, leaving a question mark for the next game against the Portland Trailblazers. What's going on in Philly right now? LeBron James is yet again rewriting history at 41 years of age. The NFL draft will be held tomorrow in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I also got something else that I started doing really when we started the show. I'm kind of bringing an old segment back. It's called Today in Sports History and much more. All right, so as you just seen, we're going to start with some NBA. And let's go back to when the playoffs began, back on Saturday. The first game was, nothing too far-fetched. Cleveland Cavaliers were home taking on the Toronto Raptors. And James Harden led the way for the Cleveland Cavaliers with a 22-point, 10-assist double-double. Scotty Barnes had 21 points, 7 assists, and honestly, R.J. Barrett had a very great game. He actually led the way for the Raptors with 24 points, but, nothing that we really weren't expecting, especially with Cleveland being at home to start the series off, rather. They did win 126-113 over Toronto. Then we had the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and much like the first game, it kind of went the way that we would have thought it would have went, with Denver winning at home. 116-105 over the Timberwolves. Ant-Man was very close to a triple-double in his own right with 22 points, 9 boards, and 7 assists. But Jokic, the king of triple-doubles, he did it yet again. 25 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. Murray also almost had a double-double himself with 30 points and 7 assists. I believe Murray is actually averaging 30 points per game so far in the 2 games that they've played. Gordon had 17 and 8 for the Nuggets. Cam Johnson had 12 points. Christian Braun had 12 and 8. Then you go back over to the Minnesota Timberwolves side. McDaniels had 16 and 8. Rudy Gobert had a double-double with 17 points and 10 rebounds. Julius Randle had a very good game, 16 points and 7 rebounds. And Dante DiVincenzo had 12 points. Like I said, there was nothing really here, I feel like, that didn't go the way that was planned. I think that coming into this game, a lot of people probably thought that the Nuggets would come out in front and win Game 1 at home, especially coming off of a 12-game win streak to close out the regular season. So, there's really nothing else. I mean, we know this is a rivalry, and probably the biggest rivalry maybe of the playoffs right now so far, because we know the history between those two teams past couple of years. The Timberwolves took the Denver Nuggets out in both the second round and in the first round and in the second round of the playoffs the last couple of years. So anyway, the third game was Atlanta Hawks, New York Knicks, and just like the first two, the home team ended up taking it. The Knicks won, and Jalen Brunson led the way with 28 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. And on the other side, Karl Anthony Towns also had a very good game, 25 and 8. OG Anunoby had 18 and 8. Josh Hart had 11 points, and so did Bridges. CJ McCollum led the way for Atlanta with 26 points. Jalen Johnson had 23 points. That kid is something special. If you have not had the luxury of watching the Atlanta Hawks, you should watch them now, because I talked about this a little bit before, how I did not see Atlanta looking anything like this. I did not even know if they would wind up in the playoffs after they had gotten rid of Kristaps Porzingis and Trae Young. But Jalen Johnson, CJ McCollum, and really, they got a squad. They got Nickeil Alexander Walker. I mean, they have a lot of talent on this team. So, yeah, you know, you never know what may happen in the playoffs. We don't expect them to beat the Knicks, but anyhow, let's move along. I got a lot more. The Lakers came out on fire in Game 1 and won 107-98 behind LeBron's 19-8-13 game. Amin Thompson had 17, 7, and 7 for the Houston Rockets. But really, the story of this game was the Kevin Durant-less Houston Rockets. I kind of called that game coming in, knowing that KD wasn't going to play. I think I actually may have been recording the podcast at the time, but as soon as I seen that news, I kind of knew the Lakers were probably going to get at least one win at home. And with KD not playing in that first one, I kind of seen that coming. Then we move on to Sunday, which was the Boston Celtics and Philadelphia Sixers. And, I actually said that I thought the Sixers were going to come out in Game 1 and follow, how they had played with the play-in games. They really looked like they were gelling pretty well. And albeit without Embiid, I still figured that they'd be able to maybe steal one on the road. Well, I was not right in Game 1. However, Maxey did end up with 21 points, 8 assists. Paul George had 17. VJ Edgecombe, the rookie, sprinkled in 13, 3 and 3. Kelly Oubre Jr. had 10 and 7. But on the other side, the story was really Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Neither one of them shot great, I would say, percentage-wise. But both of them had 25-plus points. Tatum had 25, 11, and 7, just 3 assists short of a triple-double. And obviously Jaylen Brown had 26 points. They didn't really need a whole lot outside of those guys, but they ended up getting help from White with 10 points, Peyton Pritchard with 12, Sam Hauser with 12 and 7. But yeah, I mean, we kind of expected it. I just personally thought that maybe that would be one of the games where an upset would happen early on. The other game on Sunday was OKC. It was a slaughter over the Phoenix Suns. Not really too much to talk about. Shea did what Shea does, 25 points. He also added in 7 dimes and 4 boards. Devin Booker had 23, 6, and 2, and paced the Suns in scoring. Chet Holmgren, 16 and 7. Jalen Williams, 22 and 7. But I mean, nothing that we really did not see coming. I mean, yeah, the Suns have talent, they do, but I fully expect them to get swept in this against OKC. OKC could sweep a lot of teams. And Phoenix Suns, they just barely made it into the playoffs to begin with. Now let's look at the last game that happened on Sunday. I'm sorry, there was 4 games on Sunday. So Orlando ended up beating Detroit, which I called this. I kind of seen this happening. It's been said before, and we'll say it again. For whatever reason, Detroit, as great as they were this year, when it comes to the playoffs, in recent history, they've had some issues playing at home in the playoffs. And Orlando was kind of riding somewhat of a hot streak getting into the playoffs. I mean, they did lose that first play-in game with Philly, but they still made it in, and that's what counts. They won this game 112-101. Banchero had 23-9. Franz Wagner had 19-5. Desmond Bain had 17. Wendell Carter had 17. Suggs had 16. And when you look at the other side, Tobias Harris had 17 points for them. Cade Cunningham had 39. Outside of that, they had nothing. Duncan Robinson had 9 points. Jalen Duren, who we expect to be doing huge things, seeing how he played in the regular season, seeing how he was able to keep Detroit together, with the time that Cade Cunningham missed. And he's been one of the better big men in the league this year. So it was quite upsetting, especially if you are a Pistons fan, to see Jalen Duren only go with 8, 7, and 1. I mean, you're not going to win games like that. I fully expect them to win tonight, and I do expect Jalen Duren to show up in a big way, because they can't just ride off of the success of Cade Cunningham. They need more. And this is a physical team in Orlando, and Detroit knows physicality. So again, I expect things to change tonight in that series. The last game on Sunday night was the Spurs and the Portland Trailblazers. And no surprise, the Spurs did it again. 35 points out of Wemby. But Denny Avdija had 30-10. So, I mean, we've seen it in the play-in game that he can catch fire. So, that's one thing that I believe that they do have, Portland, outside of like a Drew Holiday. Like, they got some talent, Scoot Henderson. But I believe that is their best player on that team until Dame gets back. So keep your eyes on him, because he's been blowing up recently. First game on Monday, it was game 2 of the Cleveland-Toronto series. Cleveland won again, 115-105. Donovan Mitchell with a 30-point, 7-rebound, 5-assist game. Scotty Barnes led the Raptors in scoring with 26 points. RJ Barrett almost had a double-double, 22-9. And, Harden got his 28, 5, and 4. Mobley also with 25 and 8. Jared Allen with 10 and 3. So again, nothing out of the norm there. We kind of expected Cleveland to go 2-0, especially because they're starting the series at home, which gave them a big boost to start things off there. I will get to my picks, though, later, because I do have picks. I'm not picking every game, but I am going to pick for today and tomorrow, both NBA and NHL, certain games. So the last game, the second game on Monday was the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks. This time, Atlanta got it done on the road. They won 107-106. Brunson had 29 points. Karl Anthony Towns had 18 and 8. Josh Hart had 15 and 13. OG Anunoby had 14 and 8. Bridges had 10. And even Mitchell Robertson off the bench had 13 and 7 here. But CJ McCollum and the rest of the Hawks, it was a little bit, they were playing, they were just playing too good for the Knicks, man. They were hitting so many threes in this game. And CJ McCollum led the way for the Atlanta Hawks with 32 and 6. Jalen Johnson, who I already discussed, we got to keep our eyes on him, man. 17 and 8, great young talent for this squad. Okongwu had 15 and 8. Alexander Walker 9, 5, and 6. You want to see a little bit more out of him, and I'm sure along the way, I don't expect them to beat the Knicks, but along the way, I think Alexander is definitely going to make his mark in the playoffs and make sure that people do not forget who he is. I mean, I've known him for years. I mean, he came from the Timberwolves. We know his game. He's actually, I believe he's Shea's cousin in real life. So, again, we know who he is, but he's got to do more for them. Even though they did win that game, it was only by 1 point, and he has to do more for Atlanta to help them get to a point where maybe they can win 2 or 3 games in the series. Also, it was really cool to see Kuminga, used to be with the Warriors. He had 19 points off the bench for them, so that was cool. And then the game 2 of the Denver Nuggets and Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, this was, this was very upsetting for Nuggets fans. In the beginning of the game, the Nuggets were up by, I believe, 19 points at one point. And they ended up down the stretch. They started to look tired, little fatigue there down the stretch. And combined 54 points by Yoke and Murray was not enough to get the job done. Randall and Edwards were the top 2 scorers for the Timberwolves in this one, and they combined it for 54 themselves. And Ant-Man was he was unstoppable. Going into the game, there was a question mark. I think it was an ankle or a knee injury for him that he looked like he was nursing. It definitely didn't show in that game, I'll tell you that much. They came back and beat the Nuggets, and, we'll see what happens from here. I mean, it's not terrible for Denver. I mean, it's terrible in the fashion that they lost, being up by 19. However, just in general, getting a loss after having, closing out the regular season plus game 1, riding a 13-game win streak, I tend to look at that as maybe a positive because now they lost one. So now let's go into Minnesota, try to get both games in Minnesota, try to at least get the first game. But I think that they're still in a good place. And me being a Nuggets fan, I'm not greatly upset by that. And I forgot the last game. So that was all Saturday, Sunday, and we got Monday in there. Okay, so game 2 between the Sixers and the Celtics, that was bonkers, man. That was a crazy game. Tatum had 19, 14, and 9. Jaylen Brown had 36 and 7. And outside of that, they didn't have nobody else in double figures. But for the Sixers, so let's start from Andre Drummond off the bench, had 10 and 8. Kelly Oubre Jr. had 12 points. Paul George had 19. Tyrese Maxey had 29, 4 boards, 9 dimes. But the story of the game was the rookie VJ Edgecombe, who I've expressed before how great this young kid is, and that I believe that he will be a superstar at some point in his career. I mean, and now's the time and place to do it, man. The kid, at one point, he got hurt. I forget what it was, but he was out of the game for a little bit. It seemed like at first that maybe it was something, that he wouldn't have been able to come back from during that game. Well, he ended up pacing the Sixers in scoring. He had a 30-point, 10-board double-double. I believe he's only one of 2 rookies, I think, that has ever done that in a playoff series. And the Sixers ended up winning 111-97. So, again, I was wrong when I said that I thought the Sixers would win the first game in Boston. However, they did get a dub in Boston, and that is massive, man. So, let's see. Game 2, Portland and San Antonio. This was also a very crazy game. So, for most of the game, the Spurs were up, but Wemby ended up getting hurt and had to enter the concussion protocol. It was some point in the second half of the game, Wemby went up to grab a rebound, and he came down and hit his head on the deck, and, that was it. And from that point on, Portland I actually went on one of my socials and said, like, this is the time. Take advantage of the opportunity while Wemby's down, because if Portland don't win that game, they're not probably winning any of these games in the playoffs against the Spurs. Well, they did. They took it. They definitely took that to heart. They knew that would be a great opportunity. Could not sleep on that opportunity. They ended up getting out with the win, 106-103 in San Antonio. Drew Holiday had 16 and 9 assists and 5 rebounds. Scoot Henderson with 31 points led them, and like I was saying about the guy, in my opinion, who's really the top, like, superstar type player on their team, he only ended up with 14 and 4. Yeah, I'm talking about Denny Advia. They also had Kamara with 10 and 9. Klingman had 9 and 10. Robert Williams III had 11 and 9. And when you look at the other side, Stephon Castle had 18 and 7. De'Aaron Fox had 17 and 2. Vassell had 16 and 12. But Wemby getting hurt, that really, and not only that, but with the amount of time that he played, he only accumulated 5 points and 4 rebounds and 1 assist. He also had a block. When Luke Cornett came in, he ended up with 10 and 9. But, so we'll see what happens in that series now, because if Wemby does not play in Game 3, could that mean that Portland gets out to a 2-1 lead? I mean, I don't know. I don't see that happening. And when it comes to the regular season, darn, I had it written down somewhere, but I believe the Spurs beat them 2-1 in the regular season. So, I don't know. I think that they still could wind up winning without Wemby if they had to play 1 or 2 games without him. But, I mean, it's concussion protocol. I doubt that he's really going to miss time. And if he does, it should not be more than 1 game. So, I feel like you don't really have too much. I feel like you don't really have too much to be worried about if you're a Spurs fan. Everything should be fine. So, the third game, Monday night, the Lakers and Houston. Now, this time, KD did play. He had 23, 6 and 4. Alperen Sengun had 20 and 11. Jabari Smith had 18 and 6. Thompson had 16, 5 and 9. And, sadly, that was not enough, because LeBron once again took it, to himself to, pick the Lakers up and say, listen, we got 2 games at home to start. We're going to take advantage of both of these 2. Like I said, KD didn't play the first one, but the second one, it didn't even matter to LeBron, man. King James did it again, 28, 8 and 7. Big help by Marcus Smart with 25, 2 and 7. Luke Kennard, same thing, massive for him to show up in this one. 23 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. He went 50% from 3 of 6. Rudy Hachimura, 13 and 5. All around really good game by the Lakers. And, with us still not really knowing when Luka is coming back or when AR is coming back, the only updates that I've heard from watching, like, Pat McAfee's show, he had a doctor come on, and apparently from what this doctor said, he believes that AR would probably make it back before Luka, because and I get that, with a hamstring injury, it's kind of hard to play through that. Reeves injury, he could potentially try to play through that. So, we'll see what happens. But also, so thus far, the stats show for the playoffs. Now, Cade Cunningham, again, they're getting ready for Game 2, I believe, tonight. Cade Cunningham has led all players in points per game with 39. Donovan Mitchell and Jaylen Brown are tied with 31 apiece. Murray is 30 points, and C.J. McCollum is at 29 assists per game. LeBron and Drew Holiday are both tied with 10 apiece. Nikola Jokic has 9.5 through 2 games. Tyrese Maxey is averaging 8.5, and Jason Tatum is with 8. 3 points made. Donovan Mitchell leads the way right now, although tied with Luke Kennard, 4 per game, and Dante DiVincenzo, throw him in the mix before. Then you got James Harden and C.J. McCollum, who are also both averaging 3.5 per game. Nikola Jokic is leading everyone with 14 boards per game. Josh Hart's got 13.5. Jason Tatum with 12.5. Ant Edwards is tied with Alperen Sengun with 9.5. Honestly, I didn't even know that Ant Edwards got boards like that. But so far, he's been doing his thing. Cat is tied with Ant Edwards actually in blocks, averaging 2.5 per game. Look at that. Ant shows up there. 2.5 blocks per game. Tobias Harris and Isaiah Hartenstein are all tied with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, averaging 2 blocks per game in the playoffs. And then steals, you got Jalen Williams with 4. Harden's averaging 3.5. And then Marcus Smart, Jalen Suggs, and Asur Thompson are all averaging 3 steals per game. And then when you talk, because that's just averages, right? So when you actually talk about overall who's leading all these categories, Jaylen Brown is leading total points with 62. Actually, he is tied with Donovan Mitchell there at 62. Then you got Jokic, which no surprise is leading everybody with total rebounds with 28. And then Drew Holiday and LeBron are both tied with 20 assists apiece. LeBron on his 19th playoff run, like I said, he's continually just rewriting history and making all these guys that are younger than him look like fools, man. Standout individual performances so far. Victor Wembanyama in that first game had 35 points in his playoff debut, which is a franchise record. He surpassed Tim Duncan's 32 points when he was a rookie. Then, like I said, obviously getting hurt in the second game and being in the concussion protocol took his average down. But still, and then VJ Edgecombe, like we already discussed, the rookie from the Sixers, the 30-point, 10-rebound, double-double, and that's what it was. He was playing through back pain. He became one of the most talked about rookie playoff performances in recent memory. We already talked about Tyrese Maxey with the 29-9 game. In game 2, he did, Sixers as a total, shot 48.7% from 3, and the Celtics were held to just 26%, which, if they can do that again, they're going to get another win. The Celtics are one of those teams that are lethal when they're really hitting from 3. So if they can hold the Celtics under 30% again, that would be monumental for this series and could potentially swing the series in Philly's favor. And also, Joel Embiid, either yesterday or the day before, I've seen it look like Embiid is starting to get back out there and practice, doing strength and conditioning. So, yeah, man, like I said, coming into this series, if you can get Boston to a game 7 and Embiid can come back, Philly might take the series. I mean, hey, I know how great Boston is. I'm just saying, you don't know. But if he comes back, best believe he's gonna, make some noise. And if not, if they were I don't think they'd be able to completely beat Boston without Embiid. But if that were to happen, and then Embiid gets even more rest, comes back in the second round, hey, man, I said it. I was saying it for months now. If they're fully healthy, if everybody's there, everybody's playing their A game, Paul George, Maxey, Embiid, Drummond off the bench can do a lot of good things for them, especially from a rebounding aspect. And then this rookie who's just been playing out of his mind in VJ Edgecombe. So with the Spurs in particular, when Victor Wembanyama is on the court, the Spurs are scoring 120.5 points per 100 possessions and are only allowing 103.6. When Wemby's off the court, the Spurs are only scoring 114.3 while allowing 113.7, a swing of nearly 17 points per 100 possessions, just to show you how meaningful he is, which, I mean, unless you've been under a rock this year, you don't have to be a Spurs fan to know how effective he's been overall. He just won the Defensive Player of the Year. He's the youngest Defensive Player of the Year in NBA history and the first unanimous winner. Again, that's nothing that's surprising in the least. But the biggest question right now, like we just talked about, is he going to be back for Game 3? If not, will he definitely be back for Game 4? And I think that's all I got on NBA. Let's head to the ice. So, as you just seen on the graphic there, I'm going to kind of try to stick to that order. So, Carolina and Ottawa, it's been a pretty good series. I mean, the first game, it was obviously a shutout in favor of Carolina, 2-0. The second game, Carolina looked as though they were going to wrap it up in regulation. They, however, did not. There was a goal, no goal. It was a goal that was called back, but they made the right call. It was not a goal. But this game went on for quite some time. Did not end until a little over halfway through the second overtime, where the Carolina Hurricanes got another one at home. That puts them up now 2-0 over Ottawa. But yeah, I mean, tonight, we'll get to that in a little while. In their next game, things may swing the other way. You never know. You never know. Carolina's a great team. They very well could wind up sweeping Ottawa. But I don't know. So in the beginning of the show, I also said crazy things are happening in Philly. And we already talked about one of those things with the 76ers. Then the other thing is, coming into this series with the Battle of PA, I, at least, thought that Pittsburgh would win the series. I had the series going, though, about 6 or 7 games. I do know how big of a rivalry Pittsburgh and Philly, they are for the NHL. I did not see Philly coming out and winning back-to-back games in Pittsburgh. So, yes, color me surprised. I know that they were a hot team down the stretch. They were a bit up and down in the regular season, but especially down the stretch after the Olympic pause when they came back from that. Philly really made their mark and made it sure that not only were they going to just make a wild card, but that they were going to be one of the top 3 teams in the Metropolitan. So, the first game they won 3-2. The second game was a complete shutout, 3-0. And right now the Flyers are in complete control, to say the least. I do tend to think that Pittsburgh is going to get a game in Philly. We'll get to that when I make my picks. The next series, Boston and Buffalo, that has been a wild one, to say the least. So I fully expected Buffalo to come out in the first game and, really show Boston, that they're for real, because obviously they were the best team in the Atlantic. We see what's going on between Montreal and Tampa, and Buffalo made sure to stay Buffalo made sure to stay up and above Tampa and Montreal, and we see how great that series looks. So I kind of thought they were going to come out and smack Boston in the mouth. That is not how it went. Boston actually was leading 1-0 until the third period. Then they went up 3-0 in the third period. Then we got to about the 5-minute mark or so left in the game, and all of a sudden, Buffalo just couldn't miss. They scored 4 unanswered goals, took game 1, and then game 2 is when Boston said, okay, well, you know what? We had you guys down in game 1. We had you guys down in game 1, and we couldn't completely close the door. So in game 2, that's exactly what they did. They made sure that they were winning that one 4-2. That is a split series right now, 1 apiece. Then you got the Kings and the Avalanche. So, okay, the good news is Colorado's winning 2-0 right now for the series. However, it's not in great fashion. They only won both games by 1 goal. 2-1 in both games. The second game, they actually went to OT. So, they're making it out alive as of right now. However, it's just not pretty. Aesthetically, it's not what we thought. We thought that this was going to be the same team that played all year long, that won the President's Trophy, that outscored the Kings in the regular season 13-5 and swept them. But right now, they're up 2-2 with the differential. It's a shutout right now. It's a 2-0 game, series. And they could still possibly end up sweeping the series. I think that the Kings, just based off of how tight these games have been so far, I wouldn't be shocked if, they tried to get one more playoff win for Kopitar, if nothing else, because outside of that, ain't really a lot to talk about out of the Kings. So the next series, Utah and Vegas, I actually had Utah winning game 1 in Vegas. We know how great Vegas has been, especially since hiring the new coach, Teterella, John, from, the Flyers' old head coach. He took them down the stretch, and they went on like an 8-game win streak, only losing 1 game, but it was in extra time. So, I just figured that at some point in time, they were going to let up and Utah would get in there and at least get 1 win in Edmonton. I was right about that. However, it was not the first game. The first game, Vegas took 4-2. The second game, Utah won 3-2. They did win the regular season series 2-1 against Vegas. So that is something to maybe look out for as we keep going in that series. But, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Vegas ended up winning the series. They should, and I feel like a lot of people are, looking in that direction there. Then we had Montreal and Tampa. This is the tightest series so far, and I feel like really in basketball or in hockey, just overall, you want great playoff games, you want a great playoff atmosphere. I think you should be tuning into this Montreal and Tampa Bay series. So the first game, Montreal with a comeback win in overtime, 4-3. The second game, it was also in overtime. Also went to overtime to be decided, where Tampa won 3-2. Now they're heading back to Montreal. And here's the thing. So, like I said, both of these teams were fighting for the 1 seed in the Atlantic with Buffalo. Neither one of them got it. That's cool. But then, when you look at both the regular season and the playoffs combined, this is still an even series, 3-3. Tampa Bay has the slight advantage over Montreal in terms of goals. They have scored 19 to Montreal 17. But also, now, like I said, with the game going on the road for Tampa to Montreal, Montreal is 24-15-2 at home this year with 34 wins in regulation. And Tampa Bay on the road this year is 24-12-5 with 40 wins in regulation. So, I mean, again, it's a match. It's even Stevens. Montreal's 24 wins at home. Tampa has 24 wins on the road. Something's got to give. I think that they'll probably wind up splitting the games in Montreal just like they've already done in Tampa. And like I said, I think this is the best series so far. Next series, Anaheim Ducks at the Edmonton Oilers. Anaheim was down for basically the entirety of the game. They came back, they tied the game, and it looked like those cardiac quacks were going to get it done again on the road in Edmonton, but they did not. They ended up losing 4-3. It was a nail-biter for sure. Anaheim so far, now because they do have one more game tonight in Edmonton, but regardless of what happens in this game, I already have my eyes on that series heading back to Anaheim. The Ducks have actually, if you don't know, have the seventh best home ice record of any of the playoff teams. So, I mean, hey, I feel like that's something that you should lie your heads on. Like I said, regardless of what happens tonight, sure, you still got to watch the game tonight. But if Anaheim wins, going home could possibly maybe take both at home, then you're looking at a 3-1 series. Anaheim, I don't know, man. I don't know. Then again, Edmonton could win tonight. Maybe Anaheim wins 2 at home, tied series. Or it could wind up, really bad. Really bad, really quick for Anaheim. So, just stay tuned and we'll see what happens tonight. Then the last series, you got Dallas and Minnesota. Game 1 went to Minnesota. It was 6-1 game. And the second game, Dallas got back on track and they won 4-2. And just like I was talking about with Montreal and Tampa, this series is also very close. It doesn't show it when you talk about the individual performances from game 1 to game 2. Like I said, game 1, it was a 5-goal deficit there. But in the regular season and playoffs combined, these teams are squared at 3 games apiece. Minnesota did outscore Dallas, like I just said, because of game 1. They are leading right now 21 goals to 18 in the series. Lopsided win. And, so NHL playoffs has been great, though, just like the NBA. Now let's get to some NFL news. So, I may not actually talk about everything that I just had on that graphic there, but we will start with the Dallas Cowboys making big news. They had a couple of things that they were just in the news about, one being that George Pickens is not getting a new deal, which I think we already kind of realized that. He is going to play on the franchise tag, and I had the details up. I think he's going to make in the neighborhood of $29 million or something like that. No, that doesn't even sound right. They also re-signed Brandon Aubrey, made him the highest paid kicker in NFL history. So, not really something that we didn't see coming. Brandon Aubrey has been Mr. Automatic, especially from 50 plus. Okay, so here it is. Dallas placed a non-exclusive $27.3 million franchise tag on Pickens. So I was right around there. I said 29. It was a little bit too much. But, so 27.3, they're basically just giving him another, prove-it season. And I don't know. I would have thought after last year, I kind of would have expected him to be there for at least like 2 to 3 more years. They're having him play on the franchise tag. So, you know, I don't know, because it's weird. When it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, you can't really always predict how Jerry Jones is going to spend his money, and that's just the thing. I mean, we've seen what he just did for Brandon Aubrey, so you would think maybe after this year they will get another contract in place for George Pickens, especially after the season, really, that their offense had last year. And to help Dak Prescott with the numbers that he had, you know, I don't know. We'll have to find out and see there. But some of the other stuff, I mean, like I said in the beginning of the show, obviously tomorrow starts the NFL draft, and there could be some crazy trades that could come out of it. You really don't know until you get there. Some of the whispers that we had been hearing about was like A.J. Brown, but now it looks more and more likely. Adam Schefter reported the other day it's looking more and more likely as though he is only a one-team guy. He's going to probably, most likely, be going to the New England Patriots, back with his old coach, Coach Vrabel, who has been in the media for some unsavory things recently, but we won't talk about that here or now. The other thing is Dexter Lawrence. We had talked about him last time. Were the Giants going to get him a new contract? Were they going to get close to what he had wanted at $30 million a year? They did not. Instead, they actually chose to trade him to the Cincinnati Bengals. So now the Giants received the 10th overall pick, and they have both the 10th and the 4th overall pick, leading us to, you know, think about Caleb Downs, maybe one of these edge rushers, maybe the possibility of a Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. We don't really know what they're thinking, but given the fact that they're going to kind of have to plug the middle of that line now, you would like to think that maybe both of those two picks are going to come from defensive guys that they're going to draft. But, I mean, hey, I don't think you could blame them if they did pick Jeremiah Love. I mean, he's one of one. He's like a Reggie Bush, like a Saquon Barkley type of a guy, like Christian McCaffrey, excuse me. You know, he could play both wide receiver and running back at the highest level. So I don't think you would blame him if you got him. It would just add a whole nother dimension to that offense. They don't really need a running back. We fully expect that they're going to get Cam Scatterbo back 100% healthy. They still have a couple of other running backs on that roster. So I really don't know. I don't know what they're going to do there, but I would think that it would be more beneficial for them to go for like an Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, maybe even a Reuben Bain Jr. along with Caleb Downs, because I do think that they're going to probably wind up taking Caleb Downs. Myles Garrett, last time we talked about him, it's still the same thing there in Cleveland. He's still a Brown, still skipping workouts. He's still forfeiting about $1 million in workout bonuses. Their new head coach, Todd Monken, said that him and Myles have communicated by text. He's not spoken to him in person. It hasn't been a lot. It's fine. This is voluntary. So he seems to think that maybe Myles Garrett will be back in a Browns uniform. I think that that's somebody else that could possibly be discussed. Like I said on the last episode, maybe he winds up in a draft day trade to the Philadelphia Eagles. Although, in order for that to happen, they would have to let a lot of cap space go to take that cap space on with his contract. And I don't see A.J. Brown being talked about with Cleveland. Plus, they wanted to wait until after June 1st anyhow, which is what it looks like If he does wind up getting dealt like we believe he will to the New England Patriots, it'll probably still come after that June 1st date because, again, the cap situation for the Philadelphia Eagles. Another thing that we're looking out for is Aaron Rodgers and whether or not he will be returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has not really given anybody anything in terms of what his decision may be. I don't know. I mean, maybe there will be a surprise in store tomorrow night. You got to watch the NFL draft to see. I don't really think that Rodgers would do that, though, come out and announce that he's going to return. But the fact that it is in Pittsburgh does kind of make you wonder just a little bit. So, tune in tomorrow, and that would be an incredible surprise if he did and he announced it. So here's right here, the Brandon Aubrey contract is a 4-year deal for Dallas, $28 million extension, and as I announced, already the highest paid kicker in NFL history, and he gets 20 of the $28 million guaranteed. San Francisco 49ers, that was the other thing. Trent Williams agreed to a 2-year, $50 million contract extension, thus solidifying their offensive line. And the reports, after reports, the two sides were struggling to find common ground, so it's a good thing that they got that done. Now we are going to get to, I think we're going to do, my daily picks now. So tonight, for the NBA, I have the Detroit Pistons beating the Orlando Magic, getting it back to an even series. I also have OKC probably blowing out Phoenix for the second straight game. Tomorrow, I am going to take the Knicks to go back up 2-1, though it is in Atlanta. I am also going to say that Toronto get a win at home against the Cavs, and I also have the Denver Nuggets beating Minnesota in Game 3. Tonight with hockey, it has already started. Like I said earlier, I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I've taken them in both the first 2 games. I'm not going to stop now. I don't see Philly sweeping the Penguins. At this rate, though, I would not be shocked if Philly does win the series. And I would be one of the first to congratulate them. However, I do think Pittsburgh will get one tonight in Philly. Minnesota, I am going to take them to beat Dallas in Minnesota, thus going up 2-1. Let's see if I'm right. And hopefully for me, I have the Anaheim Ducks beating the Edmonton Oilers in Edmonton. And like I said, that would be huge going back home into Anaheim, already establishing themselves on home ice. I have one of the best home ice records this year. And then I got tomorrow, I'm going to take Buffalo to beat Boston in Boston. I also have Ottawa getting their first win in Colorado, at home, against Carolina. And then I also have Colorado winning their 3rd straight game in LA to start this series, their 3rd straight. And the only thing that I really have left now is this new segment, really an old segment. It's called Today in Sports History. And so it is baseball season now. I'm not huge into baseball. You probably won't hear me talk a lot about baseball going forward. But today in sports history, in 1914, Babe Ruth won his first professional game as a pitcher with a 6-hit, 6-0 shutout, the beginning of a legend. 1945, the Toronto Maple Leafs beat the Detroit Red Wings 2-1 for a 4-3 series win and a Stanley Cup championship. And with the NHL playoffs going on right now, this one certainly hits different. 1954, the NBA implemented the 24-second shot clock and team foul rules. Literally changed the entire game of basketball and made the NBA what it is today. Without this rule change, we might not have the NBA we were watching in the playoffs right now. Though, actually, it might be more of a physical game. But a lot of the guys that are in the league still probably would have been able to play. It just would have been different. It would have looked a lot different. 1969, heavyweight champion Joe Frazier defended his belt once again, improving to 23-0. And I think I got one more. Do I got one more? Evander Holyfield. Wow. Okay, this is a big one. Evander Holyfield, this day in sports history, was the first undisputed champion in both cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions, one of the greatest boxers of all time, no doubt about it. And then lastly, Patrick Waugh, widely considered the greatest goalie ever, 4 Stanley Cups, recorded three Conn Smythe trophies. Fitting that he was born on April 22nd with the NHL playoffs going on right now. And, yeah, so that is going to be it for Elite Sports Talk. Like I said, this was episode number 16. Again, like I always say at the end here, I just want to thank everyone and anybody that's listening or watching or both. I'm over time, I'm getting a little bit better at this. I got a lot more on the way. NFL season is, right around the corner now with the draft being on tomorrow. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think I'm doing a good job, if there's more teams that I could be talking about. Do me a favor, please go out and find Elite Sports Talk on Spotify and subscribe on Spotify. That really helps me to grow right now with all this. You can find me everywhere else, but really Spotify is my main one. I'm also, for video, I'm on YouTube and Rumble. And you could also find Elite Sports Talk Facebook page. I'm on IG, TikTok. Trying to get to the point where I could live stream on TikTok as well. And thank you guys very much. Enjoy the playoffs and everything that we have to come.